What's up guys, it's the new sensation Bigger Notation here, and today I'm going to be bringing you a Dark Broly deck profile, and it's going to be the same list that I took to the recent Scrub Games webcam locals and managed to go first place undefeated 4-0. I was really impressed with how this deck performed. I managed to take down quite a few of the top decks in the meta right now, and I was very proud of myself for being able to accomplish that. Even though it's just the locals, there were still some very strong decks and very strong players entering, and so it felt good being able to take it down with a deck that is over a year old now and has been nerfed multiple times, but it's still really good fun to play, and I've been having a blast playing this deck recently. Just enjoying experimenting with all of the different black decks since stumbling across Token Toa, and this has definitely been an outstanding one for me, because it fits my playstyle of just playing the control game, building up a massive hand size, and then eventually just overwhelming your opponent with resources. And this deck fits that playstyle very well, being able to draw up a massive hand on the Awaken turn, and then just stop a bunch of attacks with all of your negates and all of your combo power, and then once you've got your drop area filled up because you've had to stop all your opponent's attacks, you can start bringing out your big guys and turning the tide of the battle on them. And it's just a very rewarding deck to play. It's very good fun, lots of drop area maths, lots of warp maths, and so yeah, there's a lot of stuff to like about this deck. Before I get into things, I definitely want to give a massive shout out to two people. The first being Tom Smith, aka Irritorum from Team Deck Planet. A lot of this list is his. I changed a couple of cards just to fit my preferred playstyle, but most of this list is from him. But I've spoken to him, he's said he's fine for me to profile it and all, and I was still able to go undefeated with it, which I felt very happy about. But yeah, most of the brains behind this deck comes from him, so definitely subscribe to Team Deck Planet on YouTube. I know they've got some very creative deck building minds in that team, and they're going to be bringing out some profiles soon, I've heard, with some interesting stuff in. So definitely go subscribe to them. And also another shout out to Scrub Games, because Jamie from Scrub Games, my teammate, basically lent me most of the expensive cards that I was missing for this deck so that I could actually play it, which is amazing. And so shout out to Jamie as well. But we'll get straight into the deck. So I'll run through the leader. I probably won't run through most of the Dark Broly stuff, but we'll run through the leader. The leader is an activate main. You can take up to 1 life, then search top 5 for up to 3 black battle cards with 30k power and put them into your drop, and then the rest of the cards go to the bottom of the deck. So a couple of things to note. First thing, the life taking is optional. Most of the time you're not taking a life with this, just to stay at high life so that your opponent has to attack you more, and then you can save more resources because those are attacks that you then don't have to combo out of. So the only time that you're really taking life with this effect is if you really need to awaken, if you're against a super slow deck, or if you are on 5 life, and then you can take a life and then that'll allow you to awaken in the same turn. And then also he's got an auto when this card attacks to draw a card. Oh, and something else to note about the activate main is that the cards go to the bottom of the deck, and in this version of the deck that I've got, there's no way to shuffle the deck. So those cards that get stuck at the bottom of the deck are getting stuck there pretty much for the rest of the game. But a lot of the time with this deck's draw power and the amount that you're putting to the bottom of the deck each turn, you're sometimes able to see some of those cards again just because you put so many cards from the top of the deck back down to the bottom. And then, like I said, when it attacks you draw a card. The Awaken is at 4 or less life, you draw 2 cards, so there's a lot of draw power in this leader, like I said before. The Awaken turn especially, you draw a lot of cards. On the back side, you've got an activate main. You place up to 3 black battle cards with 30k power from your warp into your drop, then draw a card. So this is how you start refilling your drop area once you're awakened, without just decking yourself out because you're constantly putting the 30ks from deck to drop. And then it's got an activate battle, which was errated to make it limit 1 or once per turn, where you choose a black battle card with 30k power in your hand or battle area, place it in the drop area, and give this guy 5k power for the battle. So effectively you're able to combo with some of your 0 combo power 30ks, and you're also able to use it to sack off guys from your board that have unique, so that you can then replay them come your next turn, or whenever you next need to. So the main thing with this leader is it fills up your drop area with 30Ks, and it will draw you a lot of cards on your awaken turn. If you're on 5 life, you then take the life with the activate main. You swing, draw a card, awaken on the swing to draw 2, and then on the back side you draw 1 off the activate main. So in total that is going to be 5 draws on your awaken turn. That's if you're taking the life with the activate main on the front side. If you're not, then it's 4 draws, but still that's a lot of draw power for the deck. And especially for a deck that's main cards are going to be coming out from the drop area, so you don't have to worry about playing cards from your hand. You can just use all of the cards in your hand to defend with, and then just form the board from your drop area instead. So the leader in itself is very, very nice to play with. Just having a massive hand size all the time is great. Like, we like drawing cards, that's why we play card games. For the Dark Broly lineup, I am rocking with 4 purple, 4 orange, and 2 of the blocker guy. I think the main one that stood out to me playing this deck has definitely been the orange one. Just being able to warp stuff from the drop area and from the hand is very, very powerful, especially with the amount of drop area interaction that's happening in the current meta, with like U7 being able to recycle their secret rare. You've got the Cell starter deck being able to union absorb from the drop. You've got a lot of drop area stuff going on right now, especially even with Trunks Jita bringing out the 1-drops back out from the drop as well. So this card being able to mess with opponent's drop area is very, very useful. And then also the subtle hand control is actually massively impactful, because you've got a couple of other hand control pieces in this deck, which I'll go through in a bit, which altogether just add up to make for actually a surprisingly hand control-y black deck, whilst also putting on 30Ks onto the board and just pressuring your opponent, which is very fun to play with. The purple one is very strong as well. You could argue to cut it down to 3 copies, but I just like having it a 4 to guaranteed see it in most of the games, and just being able to always have access to this free removal is very nice. Or not free, 1 energy I suppose, and warping 6 from your drop area, but the fact that you always have access to this is just amazing. And then the blocker guy, you mostly play it for another name. Having a 6-drop blocker down isn't really relevant. You mostly just play it if you've already played the other 2 guys, or if you've already got them on board, then you can play this guy as another 30k swing. I don't think I ever played this card throughout my time playing this deck yet, but it's nice to have. It's still just like another 30k, another name it can come up. And then for the 7-drop Dark Broly, I'm running 3 copies. This card comes up a lot more than I think it will. Like, it comes up maybe once every other game. But it's a very strong card. So what this card does is it's Deflect unique. You pay 2 to evolve it over one of your 6-drop Dark Brolys. And then when it comes down, if your opponent is on 3 or more life, you switch this card to active mode, which is great because that means you're getting 2 30k swings, one from the guy you evolved on top of, and then this guy. Then your opponent can choose to either warp a battle card from their hand, drop and field, or they crit a life, basically. And so what this can mean is if your opponent doesn't have a battle card on the board or in their drop area, and you know that for a fact, then you're able to just pay 2, evolve this guy down, get another 30k swing, and your opponent has to crit a life. And even if they do have the battle cards available to them, a lot of the times they'll choose to crit a life, because losing a card from hand, board, and drop is actually really massive. And even if they end up choosing to do that, that's a lot of advantage you've just generated from this one card. So this card surprisingly comes up a lot more than I would have thought, especially for it being 2 energy in such an energy restrictive deck. But it's just an especially nice finisher when you're going for the kill. If your opponent's on 3 or 4 life, you can swing 30k with your 6-drop Dark Broly, pay 2 to evolve over, and then swing another 30k, so you've got leader swing. Like, this card is very, very nice. And it also ups the 30k count in the deck, because whilst it's a red card, it has a permanent where it's counted as black in all areas, so it counts as a black 30k for all of your different effects. Then for some of the more relevant 30ks, we have 4 SS4 Son Goku Beyond All Limits, and we've got 4 SS4 Vegeta Feigned Greeting. So these are going to be the main Overrealms that we play in the deck, because this guy is a +1 and this guy is a +1. And that's pretty much it, really. There also happen to be 30k Son Goku Xenos and Vegeta Xenos, which is relevant for our Union Fusions which we're playing. And then obvious things to note is this guy can grab back Thwarting, because we're playing Thwarting, of course. And then this guy also leans harder onto that hand control aspect, which is very nice. Being able to rip 2 cards out of your opponent's hand per turn, and the fact that they're sent to warp rather than drop is really relevant for any cards like, you know, Ribrianne, Great Ape, Saiyan Instincts, anything like that. So, Feigned Greeting is very, very nice, and then also, obviously the Goku is nice to pair with it. We have 2 copies of Demon God Demigra, True Power Unleashed. This card I was kind of unsure about. It's another nice 30k to have. It's an especially strong turn 2 play, but past turn 2 it doesn't really feel like it comes up, because past turn 2 you have better plays most of the time. You can bring out multiple Dark Brolys, because by that point you'll have enough cards in your drop area. You'll start to want to bring out your other Overrealms to pair with them. But this card is very nice in those slower matchups against blue, sometimes yellow as well. If you can get it down turn 2 and then start swinging and getting more cards out of your opponent's hand, then it's very nice. And the on-play effect is fine as well. Like, it's a draw 1, you warp a card from your opponent's board. It's a +2 on play and then a +1 on swing. So it's still a very, very strong card. Your ideal turn 2 play, but if you don't get it down turn 2, it's not like a massive problem either. And again, leaning harder on that black hand control as well, because every swing you're warping cards out your opponent's hand. So like, you can start to notice all of this random hand control is going to add up over time with the Demigras, the SS4 Vegetas, and the 6-drop Dark Brolys. If you consider that you're probably bringing out 2 of those per turn past turn 2, then it's like, it really starts to add up, especially when you're swinging 30ks, which are hard enough to combo out of anyways. And then for our last 30k of the deck, I'm running 3 Marseillan Brainwash No More. This card I'm also not sold on. It's obviously not a very bad card. It's Overrealm 6, and when it's brought in from Overrealm, you can put 3 black battle cards from warp back into drop. So it's actually relevant for this card to be Overrealmed in a lot more in this deck, because you want your drop area to be filled back up so that you can bring out your Dark Brolys. And so what you can do is, if you have 6 cards in the drop, you Overrealm this guy, put 3 back, then you can put 3 back with your leader effect, and then you just need 1 more card to bring out a Dark Broly. So like, that's actually relevant for this deck a lot more than other decks it would normally be. But it never really came up for me. Most of the time it just felt better to Overrealm in the Gokus or the Vegetas, and the Activate Battle, like, most good players are playing around that now. The Activate Battle has still come up for me, just to get out of any like big double strike swing or anything like that, just to save myself combo power. But it's not a massively necessary card in my opinion. But I think like 3 copies, maybe 2 copies is fine, but 3 has worked out fine for me so far. And then for the rest of the black battle cards, we are of course running the 1 SS3 Gogeta, and then I'm also running 3 Gogeta Fearless Fusion. So this guy is nice. This is your barrier removal of the deck, warps anything 4 or less ignoring barrier. But these 4 cards honestly have like felt so strong for this deck. Just the simple fact that they put 2 more guys back into your drop area with their Union Fusion, and then they put another body on the board, is extremely nice. And then the fact that they all guaranteed are going to remove something if they have something on the board, extremely strong. And then you can use this Gogeta as a blocker if you need to, which helps with your defense. But then once it comes to the time where you want to be putting pressure, you can just start swinging 16k. These cards have felt like the strongest cards in the deck for me, and I would consider upping the Fearless Fusion to 4, but I think just the fact that I have Thwarting in the deck as kind of a pseudo fourth copy works out fine for me. But I definitely stick with 3 of this Gogeta, and then obviously the 1 Thwarting as well. They've just felt really amazing in this deck. And then for super combos, we're running the 4 Vegetas, just the best super combo to run in this deck. And then to pair with it, I'm also running 2 Son Goku True Fighting Spirits, so these can actually act as Union Fusion targets as well, because they're both 5Ks. And this Son Goku True Fighting Spirit has felt really strong for me as well. This is kind of my substitution for the Kidku package, which I know some people run. I didn't really like the whole 4-star ball and the Kidku thing. I know there's some cool stuff you can do with thwarting with it now, where you can make thwarting into a 30k and then sack it off for your leader effect, and then Overrealm a Goku and grab back the thwarting and then replay thwarting on the same turn, get another 25k double strike swing in. But it feels fairly convoluted. You already have problems now that thwarting is at 1 with both seeing it, because it's not a 30k, so you're going to be bottom decking it a lot of the time with your leader frontside effect, and you're also just like, it's a one-off, you're going to struggle to see it a lot of the time. But you also have problems once you see it with recycling it, so burning a Goku and just killing your thwarting off the board just to get it back and get another swing in can feel a little bit greedy sometimes, I think. I feel like you kind of just want to wait for your opponent to kill the thwarting and then recycle it when you need to. So I don't feel like the Kidku package is massively necessary in this deck anymore. It is nice to shuffle the deck for your leader's front side, so it can help with finding the thwartings as well, but I don't think it's worth running with just the 1 copy now. So this was kind of my substitution for that. Just another nice 1-drop, and it actually came up a lot, especially for those slower matchups against blue, against yellow. Just being able to add onto that hand control and the pressure that you're putting on with the 30ks, it can really put your opponent into some tight spots where they don't want to negate because they'll start losing the key cards from their hand, but they kind of have to negate because I'm swinging 30k at their face and they're going down to low life. So it can kind of put them in a tough spot where it's like, if they're negating, then they're losing another card from their hand, but if they're not negating, then they're comboing out of a 30k swing, so they're losing a lot of cards in hand either way. And then it just pairs really nicely with the rest of the hand destruction that this deck can bring. And then we also have 3 copies of Gravy in Demigra's Thrall, where just simply when it's comboed, you put 2 black battle cards from your, or 2 cards, sorry, from your warp back into your drop. So just a nice way to keep extending. If you don't quite have enough cards in your drop for your Dark Brolys or anything like that, then you can combo this guy and put some back. You can combo on defensive to fill up your drop for the next turn. Just an all-round really strong card. And then for our more aggressive pieces, we've got 1 Furthering Destruction Champer. You just slam this on a 30k and you're swinging 40k double strike. Like there's nothing really bad about that. It's just a good card. 2 Super Kamehameha. So this is kind of your way just to get through floodgates. You don't really have any other counterplay interaction in this deck, so I just thought this was a very strong card to have in. And it means that you're able to actively pressure your opponent and not have to worry so much about the floodgates when it comes to kill turns. Secret Rare, I'm running Supreme Kai. You can definitely run Pan in this deck. Supreme Kai feels fairly strong in this current meta, just because there's a lot of unison decks going around with Dripku, with Cooler, anything like that. This card would do a lot more than Pan would against those decks, because it can effectively buy you a free turn sometimes, and just very strong card. Another big swing, 40k swinger for 1 energy, and you can pay 1 to remove a board, which is going to come up a lot of the time. It's a very strong card. Gives you some good unison interaction as well. And then for our more defensive cards, we've got 3 support, then 2 Supreme Kai negates. This card is pretty much always going to be live because you're warping a lot of the stuff out of your drop area, and you're warping a lot of your opponent's cards as well. So even if you don't have a warp, then your opponent will probably, if you've been playing a lot of the Dark Broly stuff. And then we have 2 of the Supreme Kai of Time, Guardian of Space-Time. This card is just another nice defensive card, so we have these very strong negates, which can soak up 2 attacks each. And then we've got this card, which is very helpful, especially in the early game, because a lot of the time in the early game you won't have a massive hand size. And so if your opponent is swinging with like a 15k crit swing that you don't necessarily want to take, a big double strike swing to try and put you from 5 to 3, this card can come up nicely and just get you out of that attack for free. So yeah, just a very helpful card against aggro, especially when early on you might have like a lot of 0 combo power cards in your hand with all of the Dark Brolys, and you might not want to negate the attacks, you might not have the energy to negate, and so this can help you there. But it can also just help you when you're going in for the kill, just to get you that extra combo power. Just a really solid card, honestly. And so that is going to be the whole deck. Entirely 50 cards. I'm never going over 50 cards unless I think that the deck has to go to 60. It's either 50 cards or 60 cards when it comes to my decks, pretty much. But yeah, this deck's really fun. I definitely recommend trying it out if you like any sort of control strategy, especially black control, where you'll have a lot of cards in your hand and you're able to rip cards out your opponent's hand. I highly recommend playing this deck. And obviously if you played Dark Broly when it was completely bonkers, I didn't, but for those of you that did, then definitely recommend trying to pick the deck back up and giving it another try, because it's a really fun deck. I'm really enjoying playing it, and I'm definitely going to play it in the future. So if you guys want to see me playing this deck in the future, follow my Twitch. There's a link down in the description, Big Annotation 245, where I'll have some more gameplay up for this deck as well. But as always, guys, thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it, and as always, I'll be seeing you in the next one.